Lemongrass. Cymbopogon citratus Stapf. This is what lemongrass fresh stalks look like. I plant my lemongrass in the center of my container. Before planting my cutting, I make sure that my soil in moist condition. By doing this, make it easier for me to stick lemongrass to the soil. It seems my lemongrass has been successfully propagated as we can see new leaf growth. Another method to rooting lemongrass stalks are by using water. On average, propagation lemongrass stalks using water take 7 to 12 days to produce root. When propagate lemongrass stalks using water, I change the water daily. I change the water daily because to minimize the risk for potential fungal infections. I am using tap water when propagate my lemongrass in water. For me, my preference to propagate lemongrass stalks are by using soil. You can choose whatever method to suit your needs when trying to propagate lemongrass. Believe it or not, the roots that a plant produces in water propagation are different from the roots it produces in the soil. Roots that produce by soil propagation are thicker and sturdier. These roots are better for finding and taking in water from the environment. For me, when I try to propagate lemongrass using water, they often make smaller and more fragile roots. So I got to take this into account when moving a water-propagated plant into soil, or it may not survive the move. My average humidity when growing lemongrass are about 88%. Soil I use to propagate lemongrass contain cocoa peat, red burn soil, micro, fine sand, old humus, and charcoal. Lemongrass can be grown in almost any type of soil. But lemongrass grow best in fertile, loamy soil. Soil pH for growing lemongrass is 6.5 to 7.5 pH. My soil pH when I try to grow lemongrass are about 7 pH. You can use whatever growing media available to your convenience for propagate lemongrass. As long as you use well-drained soil to propagate lemongrass, you will be fine. Container size I use to grow lemongrass, height 31 centimeters, width 34 centimeters. You also can grow lemongrass in bigger container than mine. The bigger the container, the bigger root system will develop and will resulting bigger plant. Lemongrass can grow from 0.6 meter to 1.2 meter, 23.6 to 47.2 inch in height. Lemongrass can grow from 0.6 meter to 0.9 meter, 23.6 to 35.4 inch in maximum plant spread. When growing lemongrass, please make sure your container have good drainage. Waterlogged container will promote root rot. For me, the advantage for growing in container is gives me more control over sunlight, moisture, and temperature. If grow lemongrass in the garden, space plants 60 centimeters, 24 inches, apart. For this growing season, on average my water usage is 1,000 milliliters. In my climate, I water my lemongrass every day. Time I water my lemongrass is between 7 to 8 in the morning. If raining, I don't water my lemongrass plant. Water usage depends on container size, container type, weather, and climate you live in. Keep the soil moist but not saturated. Your water usage may be different than mine. For me, it's easier to overwater than underwater. Lemongrass prefer moderate watering. When established, lemongrass are drought-tolerant but prefer to be water. Lemongrass needs 6 to 8 hours of sunlight a day to thrive. I place my lemongrass at full sun location. Lemongrass can be grown in semi-shade location. Lemongrass that grow in semi-shade will produce smaller stalks. Lemongrass lifespan in my climate is perennial. If lemongrass grown in containers, plant needs to be divided and separated, harvested, regularly. This is to be done to give more room for new growth. For me, I divided, harvest, my lemongrass in 8 months after planting. Since lemongrass grow pretty fast, you also can harvest them as you needed, for example 1 to 3 stalks used for cooking. Lemongrass are preferred to grow in tropical climate. Lemongrass are from Poaceae, Gramineae family. Lemongrass, also known as serai, West Indian lemongrass, oil grass, fever grass, serai makan, sira makan, ningming tsao, ningming xiangmao, xiangmao tsao. Lemongrass are commonly cultivated as culinary and medicinal herbs because of their scent, resembling that of lemons, citrus limon. Lemongrass can also be used as ornamental grass along borders or walkways. Lemongrass leaf edges may be sharp. Please use glove when handling this plant. Lemongrass native to island Southeast Asia, Malaysia. According to Wikipedia, after the World War I, lemongrass was introduced to Madagascar, South America, and Central America. It also has now been naturalized throughout the tropics and subtropics worldwide. Lemongrass leaf are in light green color. Crushed lemongrass leaves exude a lemony scent. Lemongrass leaf are strap-shaped form, up to 1 meter long, 2.5 centimeters wide. When lemongrass leaf is crushed, it will produce a lemony scent. Lemongrass stems are pseudostem formed from tightly overlapping leaf sheaths on non-flowering shoots. Lemongrass stems are about 12 to 25 centimeters long. Lemongrass stems also will produce lemony scent when crushed. Lemongrass scientific name are Cymbopogon citratus Stapf. Genus epithet, Cymbopogon, means boat, Cymbi, and beard pogon, in Greek, referring to the boat-shaped flower spathes and hairy fruit spikelets typical of this genus. Species epithet citratus means resembling citrus, a reference to the lemony scent produced by parts of the plant. Lemongrass uses in food as herb and spice. For example, crushed lemongrass stalk is used in a variety of Southeast Asian dishes, like tom yum soup. Lemongrass also used in traditional medicine. Essential oils extracted from the lemongrass leaf and stalk is used in perfumes, cosmetics, skin care, and aromatherapy products. According to Wikipedia, lemongrass oil contains 65 to 85% citral in addition to myrcene, citronellol, linalool, and geraniol. Beekeepers sometimes use lemongrass oil in swarm traps to attract swarms. Lemongrass oil has also been tested for its ability to repel the pestilent stable fly, which bite domestic animals. I start to use fertilizer on my lemongrass after 30 days of planting. After that, I fertilize my plant every 2 months. I use all-purpose liquid fertilizer for growing lemongrass. You can use whatever fertilizer available to your convenience. Please read and follow the instructions carefully before starting using any fertilizers. My minimum temperature when growing lemongrass is 22 degrees Celsius. My maximum temperature when growing lemongrass is 33 degrees Celsius. I grow my lemongrass in tropical climate. If your container have some weeds grow in it, you need to do some weed control. Weed control is done to limit weed infestations and minimize competition between lemongrass and noxious weeds. Weeds compete with lemongrass for water, nutrients, space, and light. My favorite method for controlling weeds is pulling out the weeds by hands. By doing this early in the growing season, it will reduce the time required for hand weeding later in the season. Weed control is also important due to some weeds also harbor insects and diseases, which may then spread to nearby plant. When you're doing weed control, your lemongrass thank you by producing much thicker stalks. I don't use any herbicide when growing my lemongrass. For me, I begin harvesting my lemongrass after 6 months of planting. To harvest lemongrass, simply twist or break off a stalk from the main clump. For cooking, use the bottom part of lemongrass is desirable since it's the tender part. For that reason, when harvesting lemongrass, remove it as close to the ground as possible. You also need to remove the woody outer portion of lemongrass before use it for cooking. For the lemongrass leaves, I use them as compost. In colder regions where lemongrass is grown as an annual, you need to harvest them before the first frost sets in. For lemongrass storage, you can freeze or dry the stalks. It is advised to wear gloves when harvesting lemongrass due to their leaves have sharp edge. Harvest for cooking. Thank you for watching.